Welcome to the Emotional Balance Sheet, the go-to podcast for parents with multiple kids, especially those with twins, triplets, or more, who are navigating the maze of modern family life and personal finance. Whether you're overwhelmed by education or retirement planning, parenting dilemmas, career transitions, or trying to define your purpose and plan, we're here to guide you with empathy, encouragement, and expertise. Hosted by Paul Fenner, founder of Tama Capital, a certified financial planner and parent to 4 kids, including a set of triplets. Our podcast is your ally in the quest for financial peace of mind, proving that money matters, but family comes first. Subscribe now and join our community of empowered parents at tamacapital.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Clients of Tama may retain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
What does comprehensive financial planning even mean? At Tama Capital, it means a family office where lifestyle planning such as retirement, college, portfolio management, and tax prep and planning are all under one umbrella. But it goes beyond numbers. We focus as much on the emotional side of financial planning as we do on the financial side. We get you. We understand your challenges of building a family, business or career, and a healthy life. We are devoted to wealth planning for families like yours because we are you. Learn how our family can help your family by visiting tamacapital.com. Hi, and welcome back. Typically, with these episodes, with this podcast, whether I'm doing a solo show like today or a guest interview, I like to focus on things that are more timeless. And I was listening to a Morgan Housel podcast. As you all know, I'm a big fan of Morgan. I was listening to a podcast of his a few weeks ago, and he made this point again about focusing on what's timeless. And he actually has a great book, Same as Ever. And the meaning behind that is to focus on things that don't change. I think a lot of what we talk about and have our eye on are things that are constantly changing. And so, I'm recording this in May of 2025. We just closed a very volatile April of 2025 with tariffs and whatnot. And ironically, surprisingly, probably shockingly, when you look at the return of the financial markets, the stock market in particular, whether it's the NASDAQ, the Dow, the S&P 500, we recovered a lot of those losses that we saw at the beginning of April on so-called Liberation Day when the tariffs were first announced. And it's still a head scratcher for me to look back at the data and look at, wow, to go down from double digits losses to now being almost flat for the month of April is utterly amazing. And it made me want to slow down and think about, some of Morgan's work. And so I pulled through my notes from his book, and that's what I want to talk about today. I want to try to highlight 5 things that I took away from his book, and specifically 5 things that I think we can all hopefully agree on that don't change. So here we go. The first is human nature. Greed and fear never change. And I think that goes to my point about the volatility that we saw in the stock market in April. And every year is unpredictable, year to year, what's going to happen. But emotions like fear and greed are pretty reliable. Most emotions drive bubbles, busts, fads, panics, the internet boom. At some point, we'll have an AI boom and bust. But understanding the emotional cycles helps us to avoid bad decisions. Number 2, love this one. Compounding always works or wins eventually. I think that's the key word, eventually. And I've said this before, is that most people's returns in their portfolios is driven by what they're saving, not necessarily their performance. And the reason that is because of the power of compounding. It's slow, but it's the foundation of every meaningful success that most people have had with their portfolios. Most people aren't going to buy Amazon on IPO day and ride it, all the way to the top and ride it all the way back down. Small habits, investments, or relationships, all those key factors, deposits add up over time. And I think we take that for granted because you don't necessarily see the slow compounding effects day in and day out. You may, when you back up and look at it a year, 3, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And again, I think this works for both the personal side of life, focusing on your relationships, spouse, partner, kids, friends, and just like and your financial life, your portfolio, making sure that you're making good decisions. Number 3, expectations shape happiness more than outcomes. This is one I kind of struggle with a little bit because on one hand, I want to have high expectations of myself, firm, people I help, the families I help support, my own family. But sometimes when those expectations get to be too high or potentially unrealistic, when those things don't happen, that's what causes disappointment and a lack of happiness. But life tends to improve over time, yet we often feel less happy. We don't realize that we probably have less money than John D. Rockefeller had back when he was alive, but he didn't have Advil. He didn't have maybe he had penicillin, but a lot of the common things that we take for granted today didn't exist back then. And so I would not trade what I have today for John D. Rockefeller's money back in the early 1900s. The secret to happiness isn't more, wanting less, and appreciating what you have. Number 4, risk is what you don't see coming. I think of COVID. I think of the tariff tantrum we just had. I think of a lot of things like that. I think personally, like relationships that have come and gone, people I thought I'd be friends with for a long time and not. It can work the opposite way too. But the biggest events in life, good or bad, tend to be surprises. So we plan for what we can imagine, but the stuff that hits the hardest is what we didn't plan for. And true resilience means staying flexible and not being perfectly prepared. And number 5, the power of duality. And I think this is one that probably a lot of people struggle with. And I've talked about this before. And Morgan has this line where he says, save like a pessimist, invest like an optimist. And if there's any one point that I've tried to change in my firm Tama over the years from a portfolio management standpoint, is this here, is investing and thinking like an optimist. And I've showed this chart before, and it's a great one by Michael Batnick over at Ritholtz, but it shows the S&P 500 from basically like 1950 going from the bottom left to the upper right. And Michael puts all these events in this chart of reasons to sell. There's always a reason to sell. It's sometimes harder to find the reason to buy. And again, that brings us back full circle to the second point I mentioned, which was the power of compounding wins eventually. And so to have two competing thoughts in your mind at the same time obviously can be a challenge, but long-term success is a result of blending realism with belief and progress. So I know a lot of people are down on the United States right now, and my response to that has been through many conversations. I wouldn't count us out. These things seem to go in cycles where we have one group in power today and another group in power the next day. But it's that resiliency of the American spirit, if you will, without getting too patriotic. But I think it definitely, there's people out there that for or against the current administration, regardless, are out there speaking their minds and doing what they feel is in the best interest of their families, their communities. And I fully embrace that on either side. So I think that's the point of this power of duality. So as I close up, I would ask you to think about in your own personal lives, what never changes? Human emotion, the power of time. That's a big one that I didn't dive into, but I feel that almost every day as my kids continue to grow. And every parent that I talk to says the same thing, especially this time of year during graduation season. The trap of rising expectations, just the unpredictability of life. So that's what I leave you with today, is to think about in your own lives what you think never changes and what that means for you, and to focus on those things that never change rather than the constant noise that's out there. Now that you've made it to the end of another great conversation, are you looking for more? If so, head over to tamacapital.com, where you will find all of our conversations. Use the search feature to find the topic or guest you would love to learn more about. Also, don't forget to make someone else's day by sharing our show. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.